Do you prefer to air dry or to diffuse your curly hair? Everyone has different preferences and the results can vary so much depending on your hair type, the products that you use, and your technique. In this video, I'm going to compare air drying to diffusing. I'm going to show you two curly hair routines using the exact same products, same styling techniques, but changing up whether if I diffuse or if I air dry. And I'm going to show you the results side by side and also show you how long that my hair lasts after wash day with each routine. We're also going to talk about some pros and cons of each, which one is healthier, so that way you can figure out which method is right for your hair. If you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Gina and here we make videos all about naturally curly hair. I really like to simplify things for beginners and talk about product ingredients, doing these testing and comparison videos, and really helping you problem solve with your curls so that you can achieve healthier hair. So just a quick little disclaimer, I wanted to say that there is no right or wrong way to dry your hair. Everyone has different preferences, and I'm not here to try and convince you that one way is best or the other. It's really up to you and what your goals are with your hair. I did want to just share with you some of the pros and cons that I've experienced in my results between the two routines, and maybe help you identify some of the things that could be going wrong if you're not happy with your results, and maybe you could try the other routine. So I'm going to be showing you both routines side by side, with the diffusing routine on the left and the air drying one on the right. I'm starting off with damp styling. That's just where my hair is towel dried, and then I just spritz the links of the hair with some water before I apply my products. Then I'm going to be using the Love Your Curls All-in-One Styling Cream. This is an all-in-one product, but it doesn't really give any hold, so I am still going to layer up their new gel on top of this, but I'm just raking this all throughout my hair and then combing it through so it's evenly distributed. Then I'm going to section off my hair. This is going to help me more evenly apply the gel, and I can also do some more precise brush styling. So here's the new Love Your Curls gel. This is a gel that has Irish moss and some other great film forming ingredients, which are really great for the winter time. This is supposed to provide a medium hold. So then I'm just using my brush to create some curl clumps. This is gonna help the curls last a lot longer and help give more definition. I did the exact same styling techniques with the brush on both routines. Then I'm going to scrunch out some of the excess water with my hair repair towel. This really helps to reduce the dry time, so I made sure to do this for both routines. Sometimes that can remove a little bit of product, so I do like to go in with a little bit more gel mixed with some water and just smooth over any frizzy areas and just kind of glaze it over the surface of the hair. So now I'm ready for the drying process. On the diffusing routine, I'm going to be using my Shark Hyper Air with the IQ Curl Defining Diffuser and Plop Diffusing. I like to do this over my counter so that way I can hover but still get good definition. And then for the air drying, I'm going to be using some clips to help give my roots a little bit of lift. I'm just applying those all throughout the top section of my hair. For the diffusing routine, I also like to flip upright and diffuse some upright. This helps give me more curl definition, helps with root lift, and I also like to use the prongs of the diffuser to lift the roots. This gives me more volume at the roots and overall more fullness. I also diffuse upside down as well, and then here are my finished diffusing results before scrunching out the crunch. And then for air drying, I'm just going to leave these clips in as it dries. I also fluffed and scrunched out the crunch after I diffused, and here were my final results from diffusing. I was really happy with the results from this gel. I got a good cast in my hair, but it wasn't too hard and crunchy. I was definitely able to soften up the curls to get a fuller look. Really great shine as well in curl definition. So by day 2, the gel cast did soften up, and then by day 3, I wanted to do a refresh. So I skipped refreshing on day 2, but I did a water-only refresh on day 3. That's just where I smooth over some of the curls with some water, and then I diffuse to help everything shrink back up and to set the gel cast again. So this gel was able to be reactivated with just water, which I really like. I try and avoid layering a bunch of gel if possible. It's not weighed down at all, which is nice, and there's hardly any frizz. So this is really great results for day 3, especially with just adding water. The gel cast did come back, but it was still very soft. Now let's switch back over to the air drying process, so that way I can walk you through that drying process and the progress of my hair on next day hair. So here's how my hair looked as it was air drying. Very hard and crunchy. This is when it was obviously still wet. Luckily I work from home, so I didn't have to go out like this, but I did avoid touching it, and I left the root clips in as it was air drying. It has been 3 hours since I've been air drying, and I've got to take these clips out because it's really hard to get the roots dry with these in here. The back of my hair at the scalp is still wet. So I'm gonna go ahead and take these out very carefully. You don't want these to cause any breakage or anything, so just make sure you slide them out very easily. I think this is gonna just help me be able to create some more movement at my roots to help it dry faster. I know some people like to kind of flip their hair side to side, which I could see that creating more frizz, because the more that you're moving your hair or touching it while it's air drying, it will create frizz. However, I've got to get some air down at my scalp. If I just sit still like this, it's definitely going to take so long to dry. But what I am going to do is try and flip it from side to side. It's not even wanting to go because it's like stuck in the downward motion, which just means I'm probably not going to have good volume when it's drying just downwards. I still have a really hard gel cast. Air drying is making me think about how people really hate getting a gel cast and are afraid of a gel cast, and I'm wondering if like those people that hate a gel cast don't diffuse. You have to go around with crunchy, hard hair forever. So it has now been almost 8 hours since I washed my hair, and it's still not completely dry, but I'm getting tired. It's 8 p.m., so I don't think I'm gonna check in anymore tonight. I was going to kind of fluff and scrunch out the crunch tonight when I checked in, but considering it's still a little bit damp, probably like 95 to 98% dry, I'm not going to scrunch out the crunch, and then tomorrow I will fully fluff it. That way we can get the full view of how it's going to look. I definitely do have more frizz with air drying that I've noticed, so I have more frizz in those coarse areas that tend to be very frizzy on me, and obviously the curls are a lot looser, so I do have more length. There's not near as much shrinkage. Hey y'all, so I wanted to provide my day 2 update after the air drying routine. It's officially been about 24 hours since I washed my hair and then air dried it yesterday. Last night when I went to bed around like 11, it was finally dry. So all in all, it took about 9 to 10 hours to completely air dry my hair, which is just crazy. And then when I went to bed, I had to wear a smaller bonnet because my hair doesn't have as much volume and fullness. So I knew that my regular bonnet wouldn't hold all my hair up. Now I haven't done any refreshing or anything today. I wanted to show you truly how it looks after it's completely dried. I never even scrunched out the gel cast either. It is all gone to where I don't have any of the gel cast left, but I just have so much more frizz than normal. I know it probably looks good to a lot of you, and I know it doesn't look awful, but when I compare it side by side to how my hair looks when I diffuse, it just doesn't compare. Like, it looks so much better when I diffuse, just comparing the two side by side. That's what we're working with here, so I'm not going to do any refreshing today. I'm just going to leave it, and we will see how it looks on day 3, which I think will be the last time that I check in, and we can compare my day 3 results from air drying and refreshing compared to when I diffused and refreshed on day 3 with the last routine. Hey y'all, so we're on day 3 after I did the same refresh routine that I did the other day with diffusing, and I just air dried, and I have so much frizz. I can't. Like, this is the type of hair day where I would throw my hair up in a bun, or I would just wash it because I can't deal with this amount of frizz. So I'm just really shocked at the difference that diffusing has made for me in my routines. Like, I've never really done this type of comparison before, so I'm honestly shocked at the amount of frizz. But for me, as I mentioned in my previous clips, comparing this to my good wash days, it just doesn't compare. There's so much frizz, lack of definition. I'm liking the length. Now that is a good thing. I like how it's longer because the curls are more elongated. They're not as shrunk up. I don't have as much shrinkage because when you air dry, they're just getting elongated and pulled down with the weight of gravity. So I do like the length, but I can't deal with this much frizz. Like, I just look like a big frizz ball, and it's pretty flat on top. I don't think that this is from the products, although it would be interesting to see this routine compared with a stronghold gel. This was a medium hold gel that I had never tried before, so I am trying something new. I had really good results with it though, with the diffusing routine. So that's why I did the diffusing routine first, because I wanted to make sure that I liked the gel and that it gave me good results before comparing it to a routine without diffusing. So now that you have seen both hair routine, let's compare the results side by side. What are some of the differences that you can spot in my hair on wash day? Now let's take a look at the day 3 results. This was after doing a water only refresh. One of them I diffused after refreshing, and the other one I simply air dried. So now I'm going to cover some of the pros and cons with diffusing. So first of all, the pros, or the positive things about diffusing, is it sets your gel cast right away. So there's no time for frizz to start to develop. I noticed that I got a lot better of a gel cast, that firm hold that you need to prevent frizz and keep your curls lasting longer with diffusing. I also got more of a gel cast, so I noticed a lot firmer of a hold, and I used the same gel both times and the same amount of product, but I got more hold with diffusing. And curls also last a lot longer when you have a better gel cast. So obviously the major difference after wash day was how long that my curls lasted between the two routines, and they lasted a whole lot longer with diffusing. Diffusing also really helps to encourage curls to shrink up and give you more definition, if that's the goal that you're going for. I know a lot of people with wavy hair or type 3 hair really like to try and enhance their curls and get a tighter appearance, but that's totally up to you with your preference. That might be a disadvantage to you if you are someone that is looking to elongate your curls, but I personally really like to try and shrink mine up more. As I mentioned, you can also use a diffuser to elongate your curls if that's what you're going for. So if you had very tight curls and you're really looking to maintain that length, you can actually kind of stretch your curls as you're hover diffusing, or you could even use the diffuser teeth to gently pull down on your hair, and that would give you a more elongated look. You might not have as much control over that with air drying. Another huge one is you get way more volume and root lift with diffusing. You can really use that diffuser attachment to help lift the roots. This is one thing I love doing with my Shark diffuser attachment. It's got those really long prongs that are actually extendable, so I use those to lift my hair right at the root, and I get a lot of root lift this way, and it helps to elevate the curls, and that heat helps to set it in place like that, because if I just use clips with air drying, it's not going to stay in place as much. Heat really helps to set the style when it comes to your hair. And obviously with diffusing upside down, you get a lot more volume. Some people get more frizz with diffusing, but that can also help with volume. But as long as you are doing the right diffusing techniques, you shouldn't be getting more frizz with diffusing. I actually get a whole lot less frizz with diffusing compared to air drying. The next advantage for me is it's actually a lot faster, in my opinion, to diffuse. So I can diffuse my hair until it's completely dry in as little as about 11 to 12 minutes. You will see this timed in the Shark versus Dyson video that I did if you're interested in checking that out. I think it took between like 11 and 12 minutes to dry my hair, and that's not bad at all. When I look at it in comparison to air drying that took 9+ hours, and I had to walk around with my hair looking like a wet dog all day. So for me personally, I don't like the look of my hair when it's still in the gel cast very tight or when it's still air drying. I don't like how it looks, so I wouldn't want to leave the house with my hair looking like that. And also when you're going outside with wet hair, you're going to get frizz from wind and humidity or even the very cold air. That can really just influence how your hair turns out, so it's better to just go ahead and set it in place right away while you're still inside at home. So with diffusing, I'm able to have nice looking curls that I like right out the door, so I don't have to wait for it to completely dry for it to look good. So as I mentioned, it can take anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes to diffuse your hair dry. If you have very thick hair or you use a lot of thick, really moisturizing products, or if you style with your hair soaking wet, it could take up to 30 to 40 minutes to diffuse your hair. If you struggle with that, I recommend checking out the video that I've done all about how to reduce your dry time. I share tons of tips on cutting down on the amount of water in your hair to help it dry faster. So that could be beneficial whether if you air dry or diffuse. So I also think that it helps to save time to diffuse, because you could even just diffuse your hair for 5 minutes to set the gel cast and then go out the door and let it finish air drying. That's the great thing about diffusing, is it really helps to set the style in place right away. So now I want to talk about whether if it's healthier or not to diffuse your hair. So is that a benefit of diffusing? Is that actually healthier compared to air drying? I wanted to also share with you a recent study that I found from Mains by Mel's video. I will have it linked down below, but she recently did a video reacting to Brad Mondo, who was talking about how it's not true that diffusing your hair is actually healthier than air drying. And she shared the study and kind of explained it, and I found it very fascinating. So being the hair science nerd that I am, I combed through the study and was trying to kind of simplify it for you guys. But it basically looked at air drying versus heat styling on hair and compared the damage that occurred between the two. So really fascinating study. So it explains how the cell membrane complex, which is one of the inner layers of the hair, it's like the glue that holds together the, I think, proteins in the hair. It basically holds together some of the inner layers of the hair. So they said that the cell membrane complex gets damaged when it is wet for an extended period of time, so from air drying. Whereas diffusing just damages the cuticle layer of our hair if you're using direct heat right on your hair, like keeping your blow dryer in the same spot, not moving it around, and if it's like 400 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that, they said. So basically, there is still damage from diffusing or from heat styling, but it's not near as bad as the damage that can occur to the inner layers of the hair or that cell membrane complex as air drying. I've said this before that it's really not good to leave your hair wet for an extended period of time, and it's also not good to continuously wet and dry your hair repeatedly. That's called hygro fatigue, and by repeating that can lead to damage. So they concluded in the study that heat styling or blow drying was less damaging when done properly. So they mentioned how you want to be holding your hair dryer at least 15 centimeters away from your head and also moving it around and not having it be too hot, but that's not near as damaging by diffusing that way as air drying for a very prolonged period of time. So if your hair is staying wet all day, that can be damaging for it, and it's more likely to lead to breakage and things like that because our hair is in its weakest state when it's wet because it is swelled, so that cuticle layer is kind of pushed out. So now I'm going to talk about some of the cons or the downsides to diffusing, because there's pros and cons of everything, even though it might seem like there's more positives of one or the other. So obviously the con that we just talked about was there is some damage to the cuticle anytime you're applying heat to your hair. So if you're not properly diffusing, you could get damage from diffusing. I've used hair dryers in the past that got way too hot for my hair. I was probably not diffusing properly, and I had a lot of split ends and damage, especially when my hair was still highlighted. When you have bleach in your hair like that, your hair is more likely to get damage from heat because that cuticle layer is compromised, so it's not protecting those inner layers of the hair. So I got a lot of damage and split ends from diffusing, whereas now my hair is a lot healthier. I don't have any split ends. I haven't found really any split ends at all since using the Shark dryer. I've been using it for about a year now, and since it has not damaged my hair. So another downside to diffusing is you might get more frizz if you're not diffusing properly, or if you like to use very light hold products. If you're not using a gel or a mousse or something to give you that cast, then diffusing could cause frizz to your hair. If you're someone that just used the leave-in conditioner or curl cream, then you can probably expect to get some frizz when you're diffusing because you've got that hot air blowing towards your hair. If you're somebody that really struggles with frizz during diffusing, then I recommend checking out my video all about how to diffuse without getting frizz. So there's lots of tips in that, so I'll link that for you down below. Another possible downside to diffusing is it does take more time if you're somebody that doesn't mind going around with that wet look in your hair as your hair is air drying throughout the day. So if you don't mind that look in your hair, then it is a lot quicker to just style your hair and then run out the door. The next downside is it obviously costs to buy a hair dryer and diffuser. That's another tool that you have to buy and invest in. There's really great budget options that I recommend. There's a $30 dryer on Amazon that I always talk about. It's a really great one. So that is an affordable option, but it's still something else you have to buy for your hair. And the next downside is that not a lot of people talk about is it can be difficult for some people to diffuse if they have a limited range of motion, or if they have neck or back problems or shoulder problems. So any type of issues where you're not able to hold a heavy hair dryer or to diffuse or move your arm around your head or to flip upside down, that's obviously a big downside. So now let's talk about the pros and cons of air drying. So the first pro is there's no heat damage. So there's not going to be any damage to your cuticle like we talked about before. Now there is still that cell membrane complex damage that we talked about. If it does take your hair a long time to dry, then that's not good. But the advantage here is that you're not putting that heat on the cuticle layer, potentially compromising it. The other advantage is you get a more elongated look, so you get more length if that's the look that you're going for. So if you really like to maintain that length, I had a lot more length in my hair when I air dried versus diffusing. That really shrunk it up. The next advantage is it can save you time if you're somebody who doesn't mind going around with your hair wet, because you're able to just style your hair and run out the door. And the last benefit of air drying is it's obviously free. You don't have to buy a hair dryer and a diffuser. You don't have to have anything like that. You just have to have your curly hair products. So now let's cover some of the cons or the disadvantages of air drying. So the number one thing for me is it takes hours for my hair to dry. And I don't like to walk around with wet, crunchy hair all day. As I mentioned, I did not like that look at all, and I didn't want to go around like that all day. The other disadvantage that we already talked about is it could be more damaging to your hair if you're going around with wet hair for an extended period of time. So the next disadvantage for me personally with air drying was the lack of definition. I had not as much definition in my curls with air drying. They were more elongated, which I don't personally like for my hair. I also had a very stringy appearance in my hair. It's probably been a while since I've had a haircut, but I've always noticed this with my hair where it hangs at all different lengths if I air dry. Diffusing helps to set everything at the same length, but whenever I air dry, I have these random pieces that are just looking stringy and hanging very uneven compared to the rest of my hair. And that's because there's lots of different curl patterns in our hair. I have several different curl patterns. For me, the underside layer hangs a lot looser than the top layer, so this area will dry more elongated and stringy compared to the rest if I don't have that diffuser there to help shrink everything up. I also didn't get any volume and basically no root lift. I did try the root clips, but that didn't last and that ended up just falling after my hair was dried. So for me, I don't get as much volume when I'm air drying. And one of the biggest ones for me is the curls did not last. They didn't even last until the next morning. I couldn't even get to day 2 with air drying. The cast pretty much just disappeared. I never even scrunched out the crunch because there was no cast with air drying. I only had a firm cast while it was still wet, but by the time I went to bed that night, it was completely dry and I had no cast left. So that was a big light bulb moment for me, is maybe that's why people really struggle with their curls lasting past day 2, or they tell me that they can't get enough hold in their hair, or that gels just never give them a cast. Maybe that's because they're air drying. Something to think about. So those are all the pros and cons. I just wanted to reiterate that there's no right or wrong way to do your hair. If you are currently air drying, then keep doing it if you like your results. But if you are really struggling with your curls, then it might be worth trying diffusing, as long as you are diffusing correctly and using those stronghold products that I talked about. So let me know in the comments down below, which one did you prefer? So looking at my hair between both after wash day, which one did you prefer, and do you notice any other differences in my hair that I didn't point out? So if you liked this video, I think you might also like the Shark versus Dyson comparison video that I did. We go over all the different features and I put the dry time to the test. So I did the same routine, but used 2 different dryers on different wash days, timed how long it took to dry my hair, and also showed you the differences that I noticed in my hair. So I'll have that video linked right here on the screen and I'll talk to you over there.